Hello all our grade 10 learners. In today's business study lesson, or in our business studies lesson, we are going to look at the macro environment and its components, and specifically the challenges they pose to the business. Now we are looking at a few practice and application questions, so let's get started. Our practice questions. The first one is a multiple choice question. Choose the correct answer from the various options provided. Question A. The what refers to the society, there's a little clue there for you guys, in which a business operates. So remember, let's take a look at the options. Remember, political environment refers to the government. Okay, so it can't be that one because they specifically ask the society. Economic environment is the buying power of the consumers. Social environment might be an option, and then legal environment is the laws. So social environment, remember, it refers to our society or where the people live. So our answer then here will be C. All right, so C then being the correct answer because the social environment refers to the society in which a business operates. Okay, so let's move on to our B one. The laws, then there's a nice clear clue for you everybody. Past that may affect the business can be found in the, again, political environment refers to government. Economic refers to buying power, and social refers to the society. So the only option here can be D. Legal, of course, remember legal refers to laws and rules being implemented by government. So our only answer here then will be D. So that is then our first question, practicing our knowledge. So let's move on to our second question, name. Okay, so that's what we have to do. Name always means shortly list any two components of the macro environment. So there is our options. It can either be political environment, economic environment, social, technological, legal, or environmental environment. But if you look at the question says name any two components. So it's only necessary for you to name any two. I only put all the options there for you guys so you can see that it doesn't necessarily have to be the first two, political, economical. It can be any two components of the macro environment. All right, so that is then our second question where we named, meaning shortly listed, two components of our macro environment. Question 3 then. Explain by using examples. So there's an instruction. We have to use examples in our explanation. How the following components in the macro environment may pose a challenge to the business. So they want us to discuss the challenges by referring to specific examples. So the first one being political environment. So remember, political environment can be governmental policies, or it can be political instability. So here's our discussion. So any changes that made in government often result in policy changes, and this may affect our business. So we have here just taken the example of governmental policy, and we have explained how it can pose a challenge to the business. The second example, of course, is our political instability or strikes. So we have now discussed and said strikes cause political instability and delays in productivity. And our third example then was corruption. So how does it pose a challenge? Corruption may cause any shareholders or investors to lose their trust in a business or their confidence in a business. So there we have discussed how these examples of political environmental issues can then pose challenges to the business. So let's continue on And then the second one, the B one, was specifically the environmental environment. So always remember, environmental environment includes the natural and the international environment. So natural environment, think of environmental issues such as non-renewable resources, health issues, or then of course pollution. So how does these three examples pose then challenges to our business? So when we look at non-renewable resources, it means that these resources can be depleted. So some natural resources such as oil or coal are scarce and expensive, so a business has to adapt, maybe use an alternative resource. The second example, of course, was then pollution. So what is the challenge for the business? The business have to measure, or take measures rather, to dispose of waste material, and this might be expensive. Then the last example was health issues like COVID-19 or TB. So businesses will be unable to import and export goods during any lockdown periods due to, for example, COVID-19. So again, we have taken the examples of environmental environment issues and explained how it can pose a challenge to our business. Our last practice question then asks, provide 3 examples of challenges posed by the economic environment as a component of the macro environment. So they're specifically asking for 3 examples of challenges, but specifically for the economic environment. So the economic environment will then be, remember, it's everything to do with money. So it will be, for example, the inflation rate. Remember, the inflation rate will cause increase in prices and then, of course, a decrease in buying power or the value of money. The second one will be, for example, our interest rate. So this means that if we have borrowed money, we must pay more on the money we have borrowed, or if we're lucky enough to invest money, we will get more on our investment. And the last one, of course, then being exchange rate. Oops, let me just fix my spelling here. Exchange rate. And exchange rate, of course, being the price of one currency for another. Now, the question asks only to provide 3 examples and not to discuss them. So this means we can only list our 3 examples of challenges, and that will be then answering the question. So our answer will then be inflation rate, interest rate, exchange rate. There is, of course, other examples like maybe petrol prices that could be included in this answer. And that is it for our practice questions. Before we continue to our application questions, let's go for a short break.